They told me they were happy to have the meeting as long as we got a turnout. So thank you so much for coming. I think that there's a lot of education to be done on this project. I first got a letter from Navigator in December 2021, and I've learned a lot since. How do I go forward here? I want to start by saying our lectures tonight are dedicated to Emma Schaefer, our dear friend and colleague in opposing this project in Sangamon County and making the world a better place. She's been with me at several of the meetings on this, and I know she's here with us tonight. The Navigator pipeline is simply not wanted in Illinois. After almost 1 year of trying to obtain voluntary easements, the signed right-of-way easement rate is only 13.4%. In Sangamon County, it's only 5.2%. There's a reason for that. The low voluntary easement rate is apparently a record low at the Illinois Commerce Commission. Yet, if approved, eminent domain could be given for the other 86.6% of right-of-way easements taking away our property rights. Mr. Maple and the ICC staff testimony recommended denial, not just withdrawal of applications. They were forced to withdraw in January, but now he is recommending full denial. He states it is not a benefit to the citizens of Illinois and not in the public interest. We agree. But a major reason for opposition by the landowners and the ICC staff is safety. These concerns are well justified. I introduce Dr. Peter Kieffer.
Hello, thanks for allowing me to speak tonight. I am a physician with 17 years of emergency department experience. I've treated toxicities, and the CO2 pipeline is of great concern. I wanted to start out talking about CO2. It's all around us. We produce it when we exhale. It's consumed by plants during photosynthesis. It's present naturally in the atmosphere in low amounts. And slowly rising amounts are what's driving climate change. And we need to do something about that, but this may be the wrong solution. Slightly pressurized and concentrated CO2 is safe for consumer goods. So they put CO2 in soda and you drink it. It's in your fire extinguisher at slightly higher pressures.
They run microphones.
But highly pressurized CO2 can be dangerous and can quickly cause injury. Some of you may have used a fire extinguisher. You wouldn't point it at someone's face. On the left here, you can see a fractured pipeline in Satarsha, Mississippi. This occurred a couple of years ago. CO2 at that scale can be very dangerous. Navigator referred to the temperature of the CO2 through the pipeline. When it comes out of the pipeline and boils off, it will be at minus 109 degrees. You can see near this fracture, there's a lot of ice formation there. That can cause thermal burns and frostbite. The CO2 itself coming out of a pipeline can displace our oxygen. That not only presents a problem for us trying to breathe, but for our vehicles. So say ambulances cannot run when exposed to massive amounts of CO2. The CO2 itself, although it's safe at low concentrations, can be toxic at high concentrations. This is really important to understand. Most people understand alcohol. You have one drink, you're a little relaxed or sleepy. You have 2 drinks, maybe you can't drive so well. 21 shots on your 21st birthday, that can kill you. The other problem with CO2 is imperceptible. We're among it right now. You can't see it, you can't smell it. It's denser than air, so if it leaks out, it will settle where we are. Now let me talk about that CO2 toxicity. Again, in the air we breathe right now, 0.04%, that's safe. But you start raising the concentration to 2%, we're going to feel a little shorter breath. At 3%, the CDC says don't experience that exposure for more than 15 minutes. That's the short-term exposure limit set by the CDC. At 4%, the CDC says that it is an immediate danger to life and health. At 5%, we would feel shorter breath. And then from 7 to 10%, you get severe neurologic effects. Drowsiness, loss of consciousness, seizures, and death. If you are near massive amounts of carbon dioxide, this can happen. And this has happened. I'm going to outline 2 cases. One in Cameroon, Africa in 1986, a natural event where massive amounts of carbon dioxide were released from a volcanic crater lake. That killed 1,700 people fairly quickly, resulted in 548 hospitalizations and 297 hospital visits after that. Reported symptoms included unconsciousness, cough, and headache. Flash forward to 2 years ago in Satartia, Mississippi, in a rural part of Mississippi where an impoverished city was close to a CO2 pipeline, and there was a leak. That leak resulted in 49 hospitalizations and 300 evacuations. If you read the article in the HuffPost about that incident, there were people trying to escape at the time, and they could not escape because they were driving internal combustion engine cars, which cannot operate under those concentrations of CO2. Both of those disasters, which killed so many, involved some toxic impurities. Navigator has alluded to the fact that they will be sampling for hydrogen sulfide. And the hydrogen sulfide in the CO2 can create other toxic threats. So what must we do? If this pipeline were to occur, there must be appropriate safeguards because this would pose a threat. There must be adequate construction standards. We need safety measures like putting an odorant in the CO2 so that we know high concentrations are around. They do this with natural gas. Natural gas doesn't have an odor. They put an odorant in it to help protect us. That would need to be done. There need to be early warning systems. Probably the most important part of this is residential setbacks. And I don't think the proposed ones are long enough. That is, homes need to be very far away from these pipelines. They need to be far enough away that no residents would be exposed to the 30,000 parts per million, which is the short-term exposure limit. That would be so that you would have more than 15 minutes to get out of your house if you were exposed to a large plume of CO2 from a pipeline fracture. EMS will need special equipment. This stuff is really cold. They would need thermal protection. They would need oxygen masks. They would need electric vehicles, electric ambulances to negotiate through a leak like this. Local hospitals would need to be appropriately staffed. We're fortunate here in Springfield. We have a level 1 trauma center. But what about the pipeline going through rural Illinois or Iowa? Do they have large enough ERs to deal with this, with the, say, 300 people that were affected in Satartia all at once, some of whom were unconscious or can't breathe? And we would need our providers to have special training in toxicity. Pipelines do eventually fail, and when they fail, we have to have these safeguards. Thank you.